Hello. Do you have one of those days? Do you ever have those days where you just can't quite stay on task? I'm having one of those days. Okay, so more fun with looking at numbers and words. Now I know it's not video games. Nobody has as much fun as looking at video games, right? But that's not what this stream is for. This stream is about creating a board game. So, I'm using Excel and Publisher to do it. At least for now, that's my plan anyway. So, I'm continuing to work on these Pokemon. I've been trying to work out a logic for coming up with a better form of logic for speed. I decided that speed was going to be the amount of cards you can hold. So the better your Pokemon is, or faster they are, um, the more you're going to be able to draw, which will allow you to do attacks quicker, do more actions, do things that can actually allow you to um, respond. I mean, you can maybe we create special attacks that are like defensive, so it can respond to a user, but those kind of things you would put up. You can put them up early and try to prevent your opponent from doing something, or you can maybe have responsive attacks. I know that's not traditional for Pokemon and TCGs, but you know that's not necessarily a bad thing. We're going to add a couple of features in there. Perhaps defensive things are responsive. And your speed is really just a matter of how many cards can you have in your hand between turns, or from the time you draw until the next time you draw. And therefore, if you're faster, you've got the ability to do more things. And I think that's why this is a good play. So we want to be able to allow people to have a certain number of cards that equal to like the minimum, the most you can have is equal to um, your the most cards you can have is equal to your HP or your deck size, right? So you can have all the cards in your deck in your hand, which is going to happen if you're level 1 and you only have 10 HP, because that's all you're going to have. So what we'll have to do is create our formula to be smart enough to say, okay, well, until your HP reaches at least 20, when you can have more. See, that's the thing is, some Pokemon may not be able to reach 20 for a long time, which means what's the point of building up your speed? I've got a couple of solutions in my head. I'm just kind of thinking about them. One, I'm thinking about maybe if your speed is greater than your deck size, you can draw it from your trainer deck. But then when you discard cards, what I'm thinking is the trainer deck would be could be any cards that you have that aren't going into your Pokemon cards, right? And so if you have extra like or one-shot use cards or any other thing, maybe your trainer deck gives you some extra options. However, you have to be able to keep in mind that you cannot exceed maybe your base speed is is one thing, and then your like bonus speed, which would be your attack, maybe up to 15. Now granted, I mean at level 1 you would only have, think about the fact that, like, for example, this first Pokemon's got HP interval of 6, so he isn't going to have 20 until he gets to level 6. In that time you will have had 6 points to distribute, and let's say he's got offense as his primary, or attack as his primary. Odds are, of those 6, especially if you got him at level 1 and you were hitting attack a lot. It's quite possible that you could end up with 5 or 6 points on the attack. So 6 points by level 6 on attack. What does that mean? I mean, at level 6, you've only got 20 HP, so you could draw more cards from your trainer deck, but you could only put 2 cards back into your yeah. Yep. I said I'm working out solutions in my head and trying to determine if they make sense. So, okay, for one example, nothing like watching someone think. Ugh, I understand that. No, I'm just thinking. Okay, so here's what I'm running through my mind. Okay, so if we were to use the trainer deck for cards that go above and beyond the HP of a Pokemon, say for example you don't have enough HP to cover the hand to your speed value. Okay, so say you're level, I don't know, you're level 6 and you've got 20 HP. Let's say you've made it to that. That's only 2 cards. Now, if you've really been cramming away at your speed value or your attack or whatever it is, I could potentially leave you with 6. Now, if attack is going to have something to do with your I know, still thinking, not great. That's the hold up. Stamina can help you build up your HP. And maybe that's kind of how we have to limit it, but because ultimately you will eventually be a level high enough that maybe we say that so your stamina has to drive. If you're pretty weak, you can't have too high of a speed, right? Maybe? No? I mean, I guess it makes sense that if you've got a small HP, you could be quick and maybe even faster than some, because you're not a big galoot, not a big hefty dude. In which case you can draw more cards, but you might not get them you might be easily knocked out. But you need to have higher speed. I'm kind of leaning towards trying to get away from having 4 stats. I mean, we have speed, we have defense, we have stamina, we have attack. If we really want those to all be individual values, I mean, I think what is it in the game? It's the IV values are really just what HP, speed, and HP, defense, and attack. But we need additional values for additional settings. So for us, unless we want to say attack is, so we got HP, we have attack, and then we have defense. But if we just had HP, attack, and defense, which are the normal values, I think stamina is needed. I like the idea of being able to boost your HP. Very curious. I'm not sure what to go with there. What's up?
Where's the switch?
Oh, since when? I have it. I was working on trying to get it. Hold on just a minute.
Just means we signed up for the third.
Oh, yeah. Here, you can have it. I was trying to see if I could get it set up so I could play the games and stream them.
Oh.
And I actually got it set up. It's kind of cool.
Oh, are you using it?
No, I'm not using it. This is before I started doing this. So. And the games and stuff are in the thing upstairs.
Well, they're just on here too.
Yeah, but I think you might need the actual game for 2021
Oh.
because it's not an online one. Okay, so sorry about that. My wife wanted to play with her Switch, and I stole it. It's our Switch, but I got it for her for Christmas because she likes Dance Dance. No, wait, Dance Dance. Yeah, I guess it is Dance Dance 2021. I was thinking, or maybe it's just Dance 2021 or something like that. Yeah, I think it's Just Dance. Dance Dance is DDR from the old Nintendo, which you had the mats. Anyway, so back to the strategizing on how to not complicate this game. I mean, my original plan was to have speed, interval, defense, attack, stamina. But if I could somehow make these share and have an effect on things, maybe these all have, maybe attack has more than more than one purpose. You know, it. Maybe speed is a result of, we only have the 3 IVs, but maybe we have attack, HP, and defense, right? Attack, HP, and defense, yes. And then we calculate stuff off of those for our purposes, like the interval at which things increase. Maybe attack isn't a direct, but we'll have a speed interval at levels. You know, we'll have on the card it'll have speed and it'll say 3, and that's every 3 levels you can evolve, or your speed goes up, and you just keep marking it in the on the Pokédex. You know, you'll update it rather than having right now. If I just say, but the thing is that makes speed a calculated value, but if it's just HP, attack, and defense, that means everything has to be built off of those. So if we're going to use something like stamina, it would have to be built off of attack and defense. And I think I already wanted to calculate stamina. And the question is, perhaps, if stamina is calculated into HP, so in other words, the higher your stamina is, the higher your HP is. And that's already in here. See, our HP formula does take into account stamina, right? But stamina is not it's more of a step towards the other values. So if we want to simplify, we could have So I'm really thinking I want to reduce these. I want to have less values. I want to stay in the simplicity realms where we may have speed, but speed is a calculation off of, say, attack. And, you know, defense, you know, attack and defense can still do what we want them to do, where they're going to boost damage and they're going to boost defense absorption, or, you know, damage absorption. But those are the only numbers that we would actually set or have settable. So that would mean that in order for, the only reason I want stamina is because I want to be able to have the user gain something every round. And I want them to be able to gain one of the 3 stats. I didn't know HP was one of the IV stats. I don't really want it to be. I want stamina to affect HP, but I don't want to have. Yep. Yep, 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 yep. Yep, 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 yep. Hey, you know what? I'm gonna check my stream settings here and make sure everything's working, because I didn't check. Oh, good. Everything seems to be working. Just need to make sure the mic was on and stuff. I can tell the video's running, so we're okay there. But I don't have, as you see, I'm not wearing earphones, so I can't hear my own voice. It's not that I really want to hear my own voice. That's why I can't hear my own voice. But I want to get through this. So we got 45 minutes for me to make this work. And I can't have, so I want speed. Speed is a calculated field based on the other values, and you can only get the other values. But they're adjustable based on, so I have an HP interval of there, but that's calculated off of stamina. But I want base stamina for any Pokemon that we create. Here's the problem. Again, another problem. This is one of those things with game design. Nothing ever goes, it's never just throw it down on paper and you're done. Okay, so here's another issue. We can set up identify the basics, right? You know, when you encounter this guy, the lowest you're going to see is he's a 5 or 3 or 2, whatever. And we're setting all this up to work with one of those values. But what if you encounter that same Pokemon? You pull that card up and he's got to scale himself, and he scales to, level 50. Okay, we're not 50, but let's say in this base game we figure you could encounter a guy who's level 25 or 23 or whatever, a fairly large Pokemon that can. Hold on, just I can see what's going on. What's the problem? Okay, so as it turns out, sometimes you just gotta help the non-gamers figure out how to game. So, my apologies, I'm late. I know nobody's watching, so I'll have to cut this out later, or maybe I'll just bag this one. We'll see how the next the next few minutes go. You have to do a fast forward over that quiet part. So I need some popcorn. I saw it. I made it last night. It's air popper. It's my favorite. But anyway, if you hear any rumbling, that's because my wife is doing Just Dance, and my floors are kind of thin. So we'll see how that goes. All right. Still streaming. 23 minutes. Okay. Let's see how. If I can make any movement on this. Still trying to solve the problem of whether or not how to reduce my stats or use that so we only have so many stat numbers to be built off of. I'd like everything to be built off of numbers we put here. So everything along the sheet just comes from the IVs and the level. That's it. All calculates off of that. So it is quite possible that maybe we can have difficulty modifiers. No. Because I think difficulty modifiers have to be defined by the game, not by anything else. I was thinking maybe the difficulty modifier could be actually just a value that's used to modify, like maybe we use attack, or we use defense, or we use something like that to determine HP, and then as those stats increase, you would get more. But the problem with that strategy is it makes it too possible for all the Pokemon to be the same. Right, so you could theoretically have, I don't know, Pikachu that's the same strength as Mew, or something like that, because they're all capable of potentially getting the max attack, defense, whatever. And if you don't change them in some way, create a difficulty modifier that says, this guy just can't reach those numbers, then you allow, you need something like that. And unfortunately, that has to be out of sight. And therefore, the difficulty modifier might tweak is always used along with attack and stamina and defense to click, to set up the increments that go along with each. So we have an HP interval, which tells the user or the player what intervals that they can increase their HP. So that works. And based on that, we can say, okay, well, if you meet a level 50, how difficult is it going to be to tell that user what to set that Pokemon at? What is a level 50 Pokemon's defaults? Well, they're not going to have our spreadsheet, so they can't just punch in numbers and get the numbers they need. So how do we, if we know for a fact that they can look up a Pokemon in our, maybe we have a sheet that tells them, or maybe if it's on there, it just says HP interval is 6. And they have to adjust for the HP interval. And then if they determine, like, okay, so the default level of a pelican is 5, and you want to be, if you happen to find one at level 50, that pelican would have to be, 50 divided by 6 based on our diffs are currently. So he should be, 50 divided by 6, that's how much HP he would have, well, times 10. 50 divided by 6 would give him his HP. So he would be about 80 HP. Is that right? So if I put him at level 50, does he get to be 80? No, that's 100. HP interval of 50. I would get even, oh, I have stamina 4. Oh, okay. So I don't have, so if this is a 1, I thought the stamina was affecting that. I would have thought, is it 48 the trigger for 6? 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 47. Seems off, huh? It's got an HP interval of 6. Why was it 47? Interesting. If our math is right on that. I think part of the problem is I don't know if, let's see if it's true. At 40, it says HP interval is 6, so that would be at 5, we're at 10, and at 6, we're at 20. But at 12, are we 30? Are we 11? See, there's your thing here. So 6 or 20, but the real thing is actually, see, that's only 5. See, this is where I was mentioning that if somebody's really low on their difficulty modifier, now his is actually a 5, but I think that first opening of, let's see if I'm right. Let's see if that's 16 or low again. Yeah, see, went up again at 16. See, I think that first one is the break. Things kind of break down at the first one because we don't have it. We don't have that a squishy range that I mentioned before, where we balance the lowest number against the highest number within the range of values that are possible. If these numbers are too small and we have some really low numbers, that means that first gap is going to be bigger in a lot of cases than all the remaining gaps. We may consistently be 5 after the first one, but here it's 6 and it's really 5. So that's why at 47 we switched, because it's actually every 5, not every 6, because of the first one. And that's just a tweak of the game, the way the way the math is set up. I'll have to look into seeing if I can get me a squishy range going, and I'll show you what happens. I call it a squishy range. It's just, I call it that because it's squishing all the numbers within the range that we want. It's forcing there to be an equal division between 1 and 100 within the ranges of 1 to 100, and not 0.1 and then have 0.1, 0.7, 0.9, 0.2, 0.9.5 or whatever, and all those equal 1. So we got 4 values or 5 values that all equal 1, while everything else has to fall within the 1 to 100 range. So we're trying to create the gap that says No, if we have 4 at 1, then maybe our second or third one should be 2, and our so on and so forth. So maybe it's just a minor tweak that adjusts all those ones that fall into the realm of not good, and we balance them out. And therefore you're squishing them all to fit within the range. And I did, it's called scaling. I actually created a function called scale value. The only reason I didn't use it in this is because I have to review it and understand it again, because I wrote that years ago, and I need to get in there and go, okay, well, if I needed to scale between X and Y, or between A and Z, what are my value ranges? What do I need to do? And then it's going to go and say, okay, well, let's make these all fit within that value range. So basically what you're doing is you're assigning every number has to fall within that. And if your value is, outside of that, it gets sucked into it and forced to fit. It's an interesting formula, but I don't want to show you that right now because I don't want to remember how it works right now. But I think that's why we have kind of an off here. This is why 46 or 47 actually resulted in an up, and we were also off by several because it's going up by 5 after the first one instead of 6. So I could have it do something like skip the first one and just go by increments that start at the second level, which would probably be pretty close to right, because everything after the first one is going to include everything as it goes up. But I think it'd be more balanced just to use the scale valuing. But right now, we're okay. If I were to use these, we would find that things come out pretty close. I mean, whatever. But anyway, let's take this back down to our fixed value. We still have the issue of how do we calculate this? And in essence, we'll just have users dividing this, and that's what their level 50 Pokemon will be. So that's a trick, right? Because now we're asking them to divide. If you're level 50, you know, divide 50 by 13. Divide 50 by 7. You know, I mean, these numbers can be done. Obviously, you can get 7 out of 50, but it's math, right? So how do we force the user to adjust for that? This is pretty good. So if we say it's level 2, let's see, so at level 7 he obviously changes. Yeah. So if every 7 he's going to change, what do we expect him to be? So at level 70, that should be close to 100, right? It's 110, so it's close. That one mathed out pretty close. Still off by a tad, but because we're dividing the 70 by 7 and you get 10, so it's 100. Maybe that's okay if you really think about it. The ones you find in the wild should technically be weaker, right? That's just how it goes. It's better to build up a Pokemon, and but a Pokemon that you build up from scratch, from the lowest levels, should be stronger than one you find out in the wild. Because you trained him. He's been doing good. He's been getting trained. I don't mind it coming out like that. That's just one of the... Could you train him up to be the right size? Probably not. Catching a level 80 or 90 Pokemon might just be a detriment to a level 80 or 90 Pokemon. This is why you have minimums to prevent you from finding a Pokemon that's going to get too much affected by it. Maybe we don't have Pokemon that could be found at level 1. This way we always get the right number, and then maybe we only calculate starting at the second level, which might adjust all of these numbers. Let's take a look and see what it does. That's easy enough. Let's go to my formulas. We'll bring that over here. Get change interval. So we're going to go ahead and set this loop. Do while these are equal, and we're going to have our starting value. So the starting value is us setting it to 1, right? Because we don't know what the first change value is. But what we're going to do is run through loop again to return level 3 increment. Let's see if this comes out a little bit more accurate for us. So what this would do is say if starting test value is not equal to working value, then and we'll say starting test value equals working val, and then we'll set and B, all right, B means Boolean. It's just a bit field. So, and B, get second change. Not second change. And then I'll say equals true. All right, so what this is going to allow us to do is, I gotta declare this, but we'll put this up here and we'll say dim be second change as Boolean. All right, so this is actually going to set these equals so it prevents it from actually jumping out of the loop, but this will also change my values in the function. So let's go ahead and hit save. Let's see if our numbers changed any. I have a feeling when you hit save, it triggers these. So. Oh, I did, but it did change them, but it took the total. I need to reset the I interval also. Or that's not going to work. I see. We go I interval and we do, I interval is a level, so we got to leave that going up. But it's not the right value we need to compare against. What we need is the difference between that and the first working val. So we'll say, let's do this. I first increase equals working val. I first increase equals working val, and then it's B second change equals true, and then we'll have to go up here and we'll actually have to say we don't want the interval. What we want is we don't want the interval. What we want is the interval minus first increase. Yes. I'll call it first change. I like first change better. I know you get to watch me program. And this is, a lot of people go, what does this got to do with game design? Well, it has a lot to do with the way I game design. And so, yeah, my apologies if this is not your idea of game design. It's just one of the ways I go about it. I like to use formulas. I am a developer, programmer. I don't like to have to do things redundantly. I like it to be logical in how things come out. And as such, I don't like to keep just putting in random numbers. To me, that doesn't work. I want everything to be associated and balanced. And in order for that to happen, they all got to be using the same logic in their creation. So no matter what I do, if everything's based on a level 1 to 100 and everything's based on these difficulty values, then I want everybody to be balanced instead of me just randomly going, you know, this guy should be stronger than that guy, throwing some numbers. And then, because then how do you make them, how do you give the, if you don't have that and you just randomly create all the cards and we don't have any formulas, so how do you scale those? You know, you're going to create these guys and then you're going to have to come up with a way to scale those monsters that makes sense. You know, you're just going to randomly give them something. I mean, you got to make up numbers. And what makes the possibility of, and how do you balance your scaling to make sure that a weak Pokemon doesn't end up being a monster Pokemon because you're just going to randomly scale them. You need to come up with logic that works, and in this case you're dealing with numbers that need to balance those guys. And that's kind of how a lot of balancing goes. Game design, to be honest, I don't know how anybody could do game design without, well, okay, creating a variety of statistically created cards of any kind that do different things. If your numbers are not in some way formulaic in their balancing, you're going to have a lot of problems. Okay, this is why some game design, you know, they'll create cards that do X and do Y and do Z, and they're just random abilities. You know, this one will give you a card, this one gives you 5 more cards, and this one does that, and this. Those are really hard to balance. I mean, it's fun. They could be fun games if they're well balanced, but there's no logic. There's no way to formulate what truly makes that card balanced, right? Other than just playing it over and over and over and over again. It's kind of like trial and error. Yes, you can do this random and just keep changing numbers until everybody feels pretty good. But now we're trying to scale these guys so they can grow with you and make the game interesting. If you don't have a good way to scale those, that the player can utilize, it's gonna be really hard to create balanced characters, especially scaled ones, because exponential scaling, where you just say, okay, well, if you're level 3, then multiply by 3, that's dangerous, because exponential scaling could really make some guys crazy strong. I mean, or way underpowered. But if it's got some kind of adjusting modifier to say, okay, well, we don't, you know, just simply, and what if it's level 50? I mean, you're going to have somebody multiply by 50 to get the base values? You know, all that's kind of it's all kind of scary in that sense. All right, so let's see if this did anything for us. See, look at that. We got a nice pretty minus 14. So obviously I mismathed. So our interval at the point at which we are at the second change. Oh, let's go like this. That'll keep us from coming back in here for one thing. And it keeps our loop running correctly, so we still flip over. Let's try that again. Still changed our number, but it didn't give us what we want. So we know our interval. So let's see where we are when we get here. So So that's 20 based on level 5. And first change is 0. So it took we came in here. What is our interval at this point? 13? Why is it 13? It should be, wasn't it 6 to start? Oops. I'm obviously getting a negative, so I'm miscalculating something. I might be subtracting the wrong value. No, because I first change should be what the first working val is when we get here, and starting val was basically whatever 1 said it was, so it was 10. That's what it is. It's my HPs are not singular values like interval. It's gonna have to be first change would have to be divided by 10. I think that's what I need to do. There we go. Still seems high, but let's see. Our HP interval is still wrong because obviously we didn't change at 9. Level 6 we change. 5 is 1, 6 is another. So unless our next change ain't going to be until 15, which I have a feeling it's at like 12. Yeah. It's actually at 11. Which would be 5 after 6, so that's fine. So this should be saying 5, not 9. So math, because math, we're still going here. This is a pretty simple change. I'm obviously just overthinking it or something. Okay, so we had it good. We went in here. We were at 5. We don't want the first change. We want to get whatever the second interval is. However, so we want our intervals. What if we just set our interval back to 0? But we also add in let's call this my first interval, and then we're just going to change this to interval, interval, and we're also going to initiate interval, initialize interval equals 0. And then we'll just say I interval minus I first interval, and here it'll be I interval plus I first interval. This just makes sure that we are continuing to count, even though it's so that we can continue this interval goes up for the purposes of our working val. And it should eventually bring us back around. So we'll keep doing this. Working val will keep going up. It'll eventually connect and match this again. We'll just change I first interval up here. We're going to call it I first change. I'll do that instead. Okay, so we got interval, first interval. Make sure I didn't create any new variables that don't work. Working val, starting val. I interval just got initialized. Let's see what that one does. We're still -1, which means that I go backwards. First interval is probably bigger than our regular interval. That makes sense. Yeah. Because the first one took longer to get there. Probably could do that, but how come I feel like we're doing something? It's weird. If the interval just kept going up like it's supposed to, we still have I first interval. Why do I have to reset the interval? So if we have the interval keeps going up 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, whatever, and we change again, why do I say not equals here? This should be equals. If they're equal, well, yeah, because they're going to be not equal no matter what we do until they're equal. But once we hit do while it's equal. Oh, okay, because then it changes. Oh, never mind. No. Once it changes the first time, that's when we get in here. So we change, and we haven't marked that it's our change. Our first interval is 6, but if we kept letting interval increase, then we would just say interval minus I first interval. But why didn't that work? Because when it changes the second time, nothing happens. It should go out. They're no longer equal because we didn't set them back. And it should just be I interval minus I first interval. Alright, I'm going to go like this because this doesn't, I feel like we're overdoing this. Something's wrong. Alright, so we're going to go like this. We're getting rid of this nonsense. We should not have to be doing this. All we need to do is say first interval was whatever it is. And something down here should not allow, this first interval should be whatever it is. If it's 6, it's 6. But then it increments more and more and more. It goes to 11. 11 minus 6 is 5. We should be around 5. So, 10, yeah. Alright, so we got interval. Why is it at 26? I interval should be getting set to alright, so, well, it could be, I guess, if it's a really bad one. I guess it depends on which field. It's 13. 26 minus 13 is 13. Oh, see, there we go. That's what I wanted. I don't know what I was doing before. That's the numbers I expected. Oops. So now we have numbers that are probably a little more precise. So, let's see here. 6 is 10. 5 is 10. And 10 is 20. So if we set this to 6, and then we go, okay, so it says HP interval is 4, so at 3 we should not be changed. At 4 we might be changed, but it's an early one, so it won't matter. If we go to 5, So at 5 it changed, but now we expect everyone after that to be right. So, or should be. So 8's not, but how about 9? Yep, 9 jumps to 30. So we're good there. So it sounds like 4 is our number. Alright, so let's go back to what we were. I don't know what this is supposed to be. Let's say 5. HP interval is now 5. Let's go with that. I like the secondary number better. I'm gonna lower their numbers. It didn't do much for crappy little Magikarp here, which is a 26. But what can you do? He's a crappy little Pokemon, so it's gonna take a lot for him to get his HP up. If you manage to boost it with stamina, yay for ye. But we'll have to say what stamina is you can draw additional cards off the trainer deck, but you can only put back. You can only recycle the cards back into his deck. Yeah, he can only recycle the cards back into his deck that he has available to him. Alright, so that works. I think I'm going to stick with that. HP intervals, that. Now we just got to figure out how to do our speed, stamina, and attack, which is where we were when we started this particular thing. So if stamina is the focus modifier, and we're going to randomly assign different things to each of them, just basically means that particular Pokemon is more likely to be high HP, high attack, high defense. It'll just tweak them in one way or the other, allowing them to be bigger in that area than other Pokemon might be. So high HP is, defense kind of drives HP. So I'm surprised that it even matters, but because it kind of helps your HP, right? You can subtract damage or reduce damage or that kind of thing. I don't know how else to affect that. Defense, though, the way I was going to do it was actually capable of reducing damage. Yeah. Okay, well, we didn't make much progress. My apologies. We did an hour. I still got to go down and focus on this defense, stamina, attack. Maybe I'll do it offline. I'm not going to schedule tomorrow's stream just yet. Maybe tomorrow I'll just work on this a bit so that we can be past this the next time I stream. So if we don't stream in the morning, we'll stream in the afternoon. Probably do one. And hopefully tomorrow's will be a little bit more progressive and we can move on to something else to do some publisher stuff. Anyway, thanks for joining me. Talk to you later. Bye.